A to the K.
To the K.
To the K. Coming up tonight on the Ringside Report.
So we have the Inspiration signing with Impact Wrestling. We have Karrion Kross giving an update on Scarlet Bordeaux. We have Tony Khan cannot wait for Rampage to beat SmackDown on Friday. We have Stephanie McMahon being inducted into the International Sports Hall of Fame. We have Vince Russo possibly making a return to WWE. We have Braun Strowman reportedly trying to make a return to WWE. We have Devon Dudley saying that he and Bubba Ray don't do business anymore. And, you know, we'll talk about the implications on that. We also have CM Punk feeling like trash since returning to wrestling. And lastly, we have Tony Khan saying that he has never been in talks with Bray Wyatt, despite the rumours. That are the headlines. Carl, would you like to kick us off? Are they the headlines? That might have been more appropriate. Would you like to kick us off with the inspiration? Give us a little bit of inspiration.
I'll give you some inspiration. So we found out at the end of the Knockouts Knockdown that the wonderful Cassie Lee and Jessie McKay, formerly the Iconics, now known as the Inspiration, have in fact signed with Impact Wrestling and will be making their debut at Bound for Glory on the 23rd of October. I'm a bit surprised, to be fair, by it. Not the fact that I don't want to shit on Impact, because I think Impact's really good and they're starting to build up a really good roster, but I'm a huge fan, especially of Jessie McKay. Like, I'm huge fans of them, and I think they've got a lot to offer. But I think it's one of them. I don't think they were ever going to end up in AEW anytime soon, just because they're already growing their, you know, women's division already, and unless they were going to bring in like a women's tag title or something like that, I just couldn't really see, you know.
The funny thing is, though, being an Impact, because all these forbidden doors are left open, like just doors open everywhere, they could easily rock up in AEW. They are just Impact wrestlers, you know.
Pretty
no problem with that.
Pretty drafty on the independent wrestling scene at the minute, and it's even drafty on WWE because it's just
drafts everywhere, mate.
Drafts everywhere. But no, I think who knows what the implications of this are going to be. They are with Impact Wrestling, and yeah, I'm made up for them. I can't wait to see them back on our screens. I think it's more of a pain for me, because now I'm having to give up even more time, because I want to watch. I want to watch the likes of Impact. I want to watch the likes of GCW and just see the types of shows they're putting on.
So fucking good right now.
Even NWA, like, you know, especially over 73 and Empower, they were, you know, you like really wanted to tune in and watch it and stuff. So wrestling's just exploding at the minute.
Yeah. But I always thought like NWA is going to be like something that just shows you a car, because it's got such an old school feel. This must take you back to being a kid anyway. Like, but everything's got something to offer though. That's the funny thing. Like, they're very different products to one another.
I know it is insane, but yeah, I'm made up for them. We are going to see the Inspiration on Impact, and yeah, I'm sure they will be off their chops.
Incredibly talented people, so I'm made up.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
This is one of these scenarios where I actually think it benefits Impact way more than it benefits them. To be honest, they're going to be such a draw for Impact. So the company's pulled a good move there. It'd be like, again, similar to signing. I'll probably get hate for this. Similar to signing the likes of Bray. Like, because I'm not putting them on the same level, guys. Calm down. But I kind of am, because like it's one of them things where it's like it's a bigger deal for the company for them. Do you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
They're a bit like, again, no disrespect to Impact, but like they've got that drawing power that Impact need, and I think it's perfect. Good shout. Good shouts all round. So Carl, the next one. Everyone's been asking, where is Scarlet?
I know we have.
Now, Karrion Kross actually appeared on, I believe it's called Table Talk with Devon Dudley, and he was discussing among things his career. So obviously anyone who has not listened to this interview, give it a listen, because there's we're going to paraphrase the bit that is relevant to this news, but he talked about working on the independent scene. He talked about working sort of without Scarlet compared to with Scarlet and so on, like a very interesting interview and a decent insight into a guy that you might not know too much about. So definitely give it a listen. But the specific question that we want to talk about right now, Carl, is they asked him about the absence of Scarlet, especially since he hit the main roster, and the fact that it was almost hinted that she was going to appear with him, or at least appear soon after. And the answer is not fantastic, because he clearly couldn't say too much. In fact, he even says to him that this is what I can say without being deliberately cryptic. So he knows there's elements that he can't give out. But what he said is that we're waiting for something to finish taking its course. He said she is very good and she's been training like a maniac, like she always does, and you'll expect to see her any time or any place. So it seems to suggest that she's very close to appearing on the main roster, and hopefully with Karrion, because I personally think that him and his character need Scarlet as the hype person. But it seems that whilst he's not being overly clear on that, it had been previously reported that she hadn't been cleared. So it makes you wonder, is there something there? Is there potentially, I don't want to wish an injury on her, obviously, but there's some reason that WWE haven't cleared her to appear and to be on the main roster, even in this capacity as his manager. So it is interesting what's going on. And even, I don't know how you feel about this. This is totally unrelated to the interview, by the way, but people are even starting to talk about the fact that, are they wanting to separate the two because Vince is actually more interested in Scarlet than he is Karrion? Like, maybe eventually Karrion's like not going to have drawn the numbers they wanted and be either relegated back to NXT or gone, but they'll want to keep Scarlet because she's like essentially a modern day Sable to Vince. And I totally, as much as that might be a little bit of a tinfoil hat rumor, it kind of makes you go, seems like a Vince move. But so we can expect to see her soon. No definitive sort of dates or times, and no definitive reasoning, but obviously he seems to have suggested that he's kind of tied up in what he can and can't say. So I get that. Yeah,
it's a weird phrasing for me, waiting for something to finish taking its course.
I know that is an interesting way of putting it.
It's one of them. Like, obviously, it's an easy thing to speculate on or whatever like that. But could it be like a COVID thing or something? Do you know what I mean? It could be something like that. Some sort of health.
Had it not have been for the way he ended it, where he says you expect to see her any time or any place, I would have thought maybe pregnant. Because obviously they are in a real life relationship and have been for some time.
Well, they just got engaged.
And she's having time off unexplained. And you go, like, is it going to be long enough that she could have like had a child and something like that? But then the other comments he's made would maybe suggest that she wasn't. So that is purely like speculative on my part. But like initially when he was saying about something taking its course, it almost felt like a vague way of saying it's not an injury, it's not anything. But obviously, she'd have to, like, for me, my mind went to, was she pregnant? And that's what he's talking about. Like, the pregnancy needs to take its course before she can come back. I don't know.
I think if he's also saying, though, that she's been training her ass off and all that kind of thing, then, I guess if she's taking bumps, I don't think she's going to have one. But, yeah, I don't... it's a weird one, isn't it? Because it's not like she is a active wrestler. She's been more of a valet and used in that capacity. So even if for whatever reason it was an injury, I don't think
she's had a single match in NXT.
I don't think so. No. So even if it was an injury, then it seems strange that they wouldn't at least have her in there as some kind of in a valet capacity. But yeah, very cryptic. Hopefully nothing negative or problematic and stuff going on. Hopefully there's just a couple of things to clear up. Where is she from? Could it be like a visa thing? I don't I've no idea. There's so many possible.
Just going off the last name. Seems French.
Yeah, Bordeaux. So yeah, but no, she could be like Canadian or something. I don't know.
Well, you see, that might make sense to the previous reports that she wasn't cleared, because obviously if she's not got a work visa, she wouldn't be. So maybe it's something like that.
Yeah,
I have no idea. Let's find out where she's from, Carl. You vamp for a minute.
Okay.
Professional.
I need to vamp, apparently. I don't really know what that means. So I'm guessing it means I'd grow some fangs and, start biting people and stuff.
It probably is a visa thing. She's from Edgewater, Illinois. So, yeah, she probably needs a visa to come to Florida.
From Illinois?
I jest, of course. Yeah, so it can't even be that.
No. Okay. Interesting. I'm sure all will reveal itself soon, but yeah, interesting one. I just can't wait to see her on the main roster. Hopefully she'll show up and go, "What the fuck are you wearing?" and rip his stupid mask off and his weird little gladiator thing that he wears, and then you'll just be like, "Okay."
The story's there to fix this. She comes along and she's like, you're the shadow of your former self, or whatever, and brings him back to the former glory he had, or whatever.
Exactly.
Storytelling.
It's always, not from looks, of course, but there's a weird parallel between her and the likes of Paul Bearer and the Urn and the Hourglass and stuff like that, which is why I was always a fan of it.
No, I
don't know.
Totally agree. I think I've said it before and I will say it again now, so apologies for the repetition, but there's nothing more effective than no carrying at all and her coming to the ring with the Hourglass. Like, just that was it. That's all she needed to do, and everyone was hyped as fuck for Carrie having a match. And it's like, how effective is that? He doesn't even need to cut a fucking promo.
No.
She's just come out. She didn't even say a word. Placed the Hourglass onto the ring. Everyone knows what's up.
That's
fucking brilliant.
And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. She's definitely being carrying. So, on to the next piece of news. Tony Khan has gone off the rails a bit. I reckon he was I reckon he was just absolutely smashed off his face when he tweeted this.
I'm not even sure. This is like, let's be honest. It garners talk, doesn't it? It gets people talking because this statement is a fucking wild one. Even for me and you who are fans of AEW, this is a wild fucking statement.
This is like this is crazy. This is crazy. Tony Khan on Impact, like absolutely smashed off his face on cocaine, kind of thing going on here because right. And he posted this. I think it was on a Friday night, and he basically said, "I saw you doing a half-hour head-to-head with us. I can't wait to finally beat your main show head-to-head. It's been a long time coming. See you next Friday for Rampage on AEW on TNT." So it was like, shit, like that is shots fired. I believe on the Saturday, after they basically announced what they were putting on their Super Show or whatever, he was then like, yeah, it's all just a friendly competition, and at the end of the day, the fans win. And I was just like, did he drunk tweet that? Like, come on,
like the night before, he's like, "You little bitch." It's that was a fucking. I don't know. Like, part of me feels like is it just like a bit of a wild tweet, so that people start getting all riled up because they did like straight away. Is they're never gonna beat SmackDown?
Well,
SmackDown's the best, etc. And everyone just starts talking, doesn't it?
You see, he also. I'd agree with you, but also on the same night, on the Friday night, someone else went back to him as kind of obviously a bit of a WWE fanboy, and he basically replied to that person with, "I already announced the Rampage card for live next Friday, and it's straight fire, Chief." So he was well smacked off his head. He had to be, right? He had to be. So I fucking love it though. I love Tony Khan. I hope I'd love this this incarnation of him.
I love the random appearances on Twitter. Like, Tony appears, it's just fantastic. You never know what's going to happen, but it's always magic.
Yeah, but no, I think obviously he's always been spoken really highly of WWE, of Vince, of the wrestling product and stuff like that, and he's always said he wants to offer an alternative and that. So it just felt super out of character.
He's been backstage in WWE, like he has a love of from old of WWE. So you're quite right.
Yeah, but it seemed a bit out of character for him to now. First go. I can't wait to beat your main show head to head. It's been a long time coming. It was like that was just out of nowhere. So yeah, them's fighting words, Tony. So we'll see. I'm not optimistic, to be honest. And
sadly, Rampage, and a lot of people are blaming the time slot, but Rampage's numbers have been dropping. So it's a bold statement to make when you're having a scenario like that. And I don't think it's danger territory at all because, like, let's face it, they knew what they were doing enough with AEW and Dynamite as a whole to be successful for TNT. So I'm not saying this is Rampage dead in the water or anything, but it's a bold statement for like a show that does easily in the millions every time to one that's struggling to hit 1 million. Like,
yeah, I think as well. Like, it's also it's setting them up to fail in a sense because he's now gone on record to say he thinks they're going to beat them, and if they don't, it just gives more fucking fuel to the fire. Well, yeah, but I don't know. I get it. Like, it's a good opportunity to beat them, but you should silently let that go under the radar and beat them, and then you can talk the smack. Because obviously they're going to FS1 WWE, so they're not on Fox. So that's immediately going to get, less eyeballs on it. So yeah, but now I think
Maybe that's why he's doing it now.
yeah.
He's tripped up. Quick, get him.
So I don't know, but I think obviously he's now also announced a buy-in for Rampage. So like to try and also take more viewers away from the other bit or whatever. So instead of them just going up against the first half hour of Rampage, he's now going up for the full hour or something. So yeah, it's all kicking off. But we'll see. I'm interested to see how it goes, but I'm not optimistic. Not because I don't think that it's a better show. I've thoroughly impressed with Rampage. The only time I didn't like Rampage that much is when it was a 2-hour show. I genuinely think they put on perhaps the best hour of wrestling television.
There was something about having to be that condensed that really worked for it.
Yeah.
Like they were very careful about what they put on the card and how they put it on because the time was finite. I think that is genuinely, you can see the entire, you can see why it's a problem when you look at a 3-hour show like Raw, that they've just got too much time to fuck around.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, we will see. We will see. Fighting words all around anyway.
Fighting words all around. And naturally, there's going to be plenty of people now on Twitter saying, yeah, well, Fulham FC shite. Because that's apparently your go-to when you want to give Tony Khan an insult.
True.
Yeah. So, Carl, next one. Stephanie McMahon. Right, what do you think of when you think of Stephanie McMahon? Well, what you should think of is International Sports Hall of Famer.
Oh, okay.
I know, right? So, Stephanie... interestingly, and I'm not saying undeservedly, interestingly, has been inducted into the International Sports Hall of Fame and is in actual fact the first female executive to be inducted. And I'd be careful on executive because this is a club that Ronda Rousey is a member of, and Ronda Rousey being inducted back in 2018, I believe. So she's the first female executive, so the first one who doesn't actually do sports.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, she has received this honor, and I'm sure it was deservedly. I'm not sure how this sort of stuff works, like when WWE renownedly class themselves as an entertainment product and not a sport, how you end up in an International Sports Hall of Fame, but here you go. I'm not bitching about it. So Stephanie obviously tweeted out a couple of different tweets saying that she's humbled and honoured to be the first female executive inducted into the Hall of Fame, and obviously what an honour it is and how prestigious it is. She also then congratulated the other inductees for that year. But what do you make of this one, Carl?
Fair play. Big congrats. For it, Yeah, definitely. Whatever. I was going to say, whatever you think about her, whether it's her on-screen character, the work she does behind the scenes, whatever, she is massively involved with all of WWE and, the running of it from a brand perspective and from a, even to some degree from like a production and talent perspective. So, yeah, I think it's a great accolade for her and, yeah, big congratulations.
And just for those who want a sort of clarity on the sort of prestige and the impact, she is in the same sort of club, if you will, as other WWE Hall of Famers, being Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mark Henry, Bruno Sammartino, Kurt Angle, Triple H himself, and Ronda Rousey. So, that's the sort of class of inductee that they usually have. So it's definitely a hell of an accolade for her, and super congratulations, I guess.
Yeah, well in, Steph.
Yeah, get in.
Great. So the next one to talk about is Vince Russo coming back to WWE. He has been speaking to WrestleBuddy, and he basically has been quoted as saying it's really weird between him and Vince because they don't really have a relationship. So he decided to write to Vince, and here's what he said. Do I have any heat with you, bro? There's probably a lot of bros in there. Because if I do, bro, I don't know what that heat is, bro. And I don't understand why, bro. It's kind of like Vince Russo, bro, has become the enemy, bro. So can you explain that to me, bro? So, bro, this one's actually in the thing, so I was laughing at myself. So, bro, Vince did write back, and he says, you have no heat whatsoever. And I said, okay, fine. If I have no heat, I'm just offering this to you. If you want me to take a look at the show, critique it. If you want me to look at certain characters or whatever, I'm definitely open to doing that. So it's very clear that Russo would like to get back to WWE. He's a very polarizing character, and let's be honest. If you talk to the likes of Jim Cornette, Vince Russo's the fucking devil, right? To a lot of people, especially those who love the Attitude Era, all of its, amazing stuff as well as all of its faults, Vince Russo was a major player in a lot of the stuff that happened in the Attitude Era. Now, me growing up watching that and being heavily involved, I also really enjoyed the Attitude Era. So I am a big fan of Vince. He didn't always get it right. A lot of times he got it very, very wrong. There's no denying that.
The thing is, I think he wasn't afraid to try.
Yeah. I mean,
he didn't play it safe by any means, and I've got to give him a lot of credit for that.
Absolutely. The difference is, and this is the reason Jim Cornette hates him, is because Cornette says Russo knows nothing about the wrestling business. He looked at it like a TV show, wrote it like TV episodes, and to be fair, it was more like a TV show at the time, and it was more entertaining to have
what WWE wanted.
Well, it is. It's it's the longest episodic television show, whatever the thing they like to quote. So it is the TV show.
I'm just saying,
right?
You can't even put all that onto Russo because that's exactly what WWE wanted for their product.
Absolutely. So I mean, I think Cornette's beef with Russo has always been that he hated the kind of crazy shit that Russo would come up with, and it wasn't real wrestling. It was silly storylines and gimmicks, and getting your bloody ass out or this, that, and the other. And yeah, Cornette hated it, so obviously he's a big detractor of Vince. But yeah, I think to give Russo some credit, he did create some compelling storylines there in his time. I know he's then gone on to WCW and that didn't work out. He's gone on to Impact and that didn't work out. So I don't know if he came back to WWE, how would it go down? I mean, we've just seen an episode of Raw which got a 0. It was horrendous. So part of me thinks, can he do any worse? But
you wonder though, like, it's one thing saying, "Oh yeah, I'm welcome. Like, if you want, I can critique it or I can get involved in some way." But he'd only be involved among a lot of other people. So you wonder how much impact can he truly have as well, unless they turn around and, like, bear in mind, Vince has brought back some big names to help these shows in the last few years, where he's gone, well, Bischoff's coming back or Heyman's coming back and they're going to be in charge. And then they didn't even have like a week, really, where they were fully in charge. And they're like, no, there's no way I can go fuck yourself. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. But I think, honestly, if he came back, I don't think it'd be enough of a capacity to make any significant change anyway.
No. I mean, at the end of the day, the buck stops with Vince, right? And even if Vince isn't as hands-on as he used to be, the buck now stops with Pritchard, and that's it.
Yep.
So it's like, well, how much?
A lot of people blame Pritchard. Like, I don't know how true this is. I don't know Pritchard well enough. Like, he barely ever answers me calls, if I'm honest. But
everyone's got his number.
A lot of people are blaming Pritchard for the treatment of the women's division now.
See,
because he's more involved, and I don't know how true that is. I don't know how he feels about the women's division or women in general. But
I read a lot of people are actually blaming Johnny Ace, so John Laurinaitis, because when Mark Carrano got fired because of the trash bag gate, basically Johnny Ace picked up the talent relations with the women, and ever since then,
the bin bags.
Well, yeah, and ever since then, basically the feeling is that it suffered, like the women's division has suffered after that. So
you've heard Johnny Ace.
Yeah. So, yeah, who really knows why it's gone to shit for the women's division. But, yeah, interesting one. Vince Russo potentially coming back to wrestling and potentially coming back to WWE would not be the craziest thing that we've seen in the last few years, to be fair. It would probably be okay. But, yeah, I can't
wonder how profitable it'd be for him as well, because WWE, they typically don't really like you doing your own independent stuff, and he does a lot of independent stuff. So you got to wonder, would it even be worth it?
Well, yeah. But, yeah, I don't know. Personally, I can't see it happening. And I think to your point, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think even if they brought him back, how much change would you really be able to affect? Because ultimately, it's such a different ball game now with the amount of writers and, all that kind of good stuff. And the fact that things just get regularly, torn up on the day of filming, for example, as we like to see. Vince McMahon comes in and it's completely teared up the script. Like, seems to be a weekly fucking story at this point. So, yeah.
It does. But obviously Vince had a few different things to say. That was probably the main one we wanted to talk about. But, if you want to check out his interview, It was, I believe it was WrestleBuddy .com. I don't want to assume .com there, Carl.
Yeah, no, it is WrestleBuddy.com. So yeah, head over
Thank
to
you.
there. You'll be able to listen to that. But yeah, interesting nonetheless.
Indeed. So, Carl, speaking of people potentially coming back to WWE, the next one I have is actually one Braun Strowman. Now, this has the potential to be somewhat controversial because the people reporting this are Ringside News. And Ringside News have reported on Braun Strowman previously and suffered a bit of backlash from Braun Strowman himself previously, in that they previously reported, I'm going to say that as many times as I can now, previously, right, that WWE had no interest in Braun. I think we mentioned that a couple of weeks back, to which Braun obviously fired back a little bit. Now, they have basically gone on further here, and they said that they initially spoken to Braun Strowman's management, and that they have assured that there will be an announcement made shortly concerning his future. And they claim to have had talks with WWE, but they would not follow up on any ongoing discussions. So they circle to the original source and basically say that WWE, they aren't approaching Braun, but Braun is trying to get his job back. And they're saying basically that the way it's sort of gone down is that they've approached both writing teams to ask if there's been any interest in Braun, and both teams have told Vince and told Bruce and told Johnny Ace that there is no interest. Like, from a creative point of view, from what they could do in terms of the writing, they have no interest in Braun. And that's, where WWE's stance was on. So obviously Ringside News, on the back of that, have tried to contact Braun Strowman or Adam Schere's management to ask for an update on the story, given what they had heard, and they declined to comment. So that's sort of where we are at the moment. It seems that it's a lot likely that he's going to re-sign with WWE, despite some of the rumours and some of the suggestions of talks with. Similarly, there's been AEW have not denied it, but there have been talks with AEW, but again, nothing concrete. So it seems that honestly, the most likely option might be Impact, and apparently we're expecting some sort of announcement soon. Another bit that made me laugh, if you go onto the article from Ringside News, which I'd encourage anyone to do to read the full detail, they actually put a little note on the end of it and said, "We fully realise that Adam Scherr, FKA Braun Strowman, will fire back at this report because he did so with our original article about WWE's lack of interest. But Ringside News is 100% confident with this story." And I quite like that because obviously he didn't take kindly to it last time, so it did tickle me that little end into it as well.
Interesting. I wonder whether he has actually gone back this time, because I obviously saw the first version of that. Obviously, a lot of people were calling out Ringside News at that time as well. So, I don't know.
Interesting that they've said about their 100%. I don't know who their source is when they say about WWE management that have approached the writing teams and stuff. I don't know who their source is for that information, but to be 100% confident is a bold statement.
Yeah, I think the belief is that they released him was kind of because he had signed quite a lucrative multi-year contract that they no longer wish to honour.
I believe he was listed in one of the higher paid wrestlers when the financials came out, so it does kind of make sense there.
So, but what you would also assume is that if that was the sole reason they got rid of him, they would have then offered him another deal, a shorter term for less guaranteed money or whatever. But that doesn't seem to have come. So part of me does then think, well, maybe it is, there's some truth to that of they don't have any plans for him.
I mean, like from if you put your writing cap on for a sec, Carl, and look at what currently is going on in WWE, would you have a place for him? And it's no disrespect to him. He's a monster among men. He's definitely he definitely could be a spectacle in a company. But for what WWE is currently doing, would you want to insert him anywhere to merit paying millions?
They basically ruined him with the train thing, I think. There was a point in time where Braun, before, it's such a WWE thing, he got over the flipping of the ambulance thing, right? And then the next minute, it was flipping ambulances every week on telly. And you were just like, well, right, okay, well, they've sucked all the fun out of that now. And then, it's like, oh, well, he's just like a big train, and it's like the Strowman Express. Let's make train noise. When all that stuff happened, my reaction to that. He was dead to me, and it's not his fault. It's not Adam Scherr's fault. There was no coming back from that.
Be a big intimidating monster with train noises.
Yeah, and the thing is, they even they even went down the route, years ago where they had Alexa Bliss and Braun, and he was the monster, and she, and there was that kind of Beauty and the Beast thing that was going on, and that didn't ruin him. But literally, there's no coming back from Choo Choo. So yeah, I don't know. Unless they were gonna make him some kind of train conductor character and have a crossover with Thomas the Tank Engine, I don't really get where they would put him. That being said, he's got the size, he's got the look. He's not a slouch in the ring by any means. Could he? If he had a gimmick where he didn't do much of the talking and they give him a bit of a repackage and he was this, big, silent, brute type, when like Brock goes and stuff like that, like, who is there in WWE at the moment like that anymore? And you always need that kind of...
Well, there isn't. Like, they've not got your big shows, or like Brock, like you say, potentially. This return was a bit touch and go by all accounts, so you don't know how long he's with the company or how many returns he's going to make. So, like you say, it's does make you wonder.
Yeah, but no, I mean, to answer your question...
There's room for that sort of character.
Yeah, to answer your question, I absolutely could find a place for Braun Strowman on the WWE roster, and it would be a repackage, and he has already shown he can be at the top level, especially as a heel. So I would like to think that there was a space there for him, but it doesn't seem like they want him there. It seems at the moment. So let's see where he does end up. I wouldn't be over the moon if he went to AEW right now, to be fair, because I
honestly think Impact is the place for Braun.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to see Bray go to AEW, I think. But yeah,
I think Braun, Impact is the place for Bray as well, if I'm honest with you.
Interesting. I don't know. I think Bray could make a bit of a difference at AEW, just in terms of the character side of him. But yeah, I think
I'd love to see him involved in AEW from a creative standpoint. Like, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see him in the ring, but he's got such a flair for storytelling that I'd love to see him on the creative side of things as well.
Well, that's it. But yeah, interesting all round. But hey, we're gonna meet him, aren't we? We're gonna meet him next year, so we'll ask.
Why I'm being complimentary of him.
Yeah,
he's great, and we should see him in Impact.
I'm gonna tell him the truth when we see him.
You can say that with everyone.
And I will. It's all to come. So yeah, interesting one, I would say. But next one to talk about, Anthony. So speaking of people we're going to be meeting, Devon Dudley. He has been speaking recently. It doesn't list a source here. There we go. The Cut Pro Wrestling Podcast. He was a guest on there, and basically he said a couple of things just around like, he was never really keen on being a producer backstage in WWE. He does enjoy it, but he never really wanted to give up on being an active wrestler in the ring. But that was the offer he had, was to be a kind of producer. So obviously he ended up taking them up on that. But he also, he also spoke about obviously the return that they had back in 2015 when the Dudleys returned. So he wasn't a huge fan of that either.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they were used correctly by any means, but I was made up to see them back.
Yeah. Me too, to be fair. But yeah, he wasn't really a massive fan of that apparently. But he basically said when they came back, he knew that they weren't going to be at the top of the food chain. But they got a lot of respect from the other people in the locker room, and their role was effectively to help the younger talent and kind of put them over and stuff like that.
Literally one of the first things he did, they helped put over Enzo and Cass, even though they totally fucked that tag team up.
Yeah, he did comment though that Bubba didn't necessarily want to play ball when it came to that, so I don't think he was ready to come back and be that kind of person who put people over and stuff like that. I think he kind of left a bit of a sour taste in his mouth, but Devon was quoted as saying about Bubba that he wishes him nothing but the best. They don't do business anymore. There's no hard feelings and there's no animosity towards him. It's just he's doing his thing and he's doing he's doing his thing. So he said Bubba and I are not at odds with each other. We don't hate one another. We just went different ways like most tag teams do. This isn't a Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels thing where we hate each other. We don't. We just had a difference of opinions at that time and we went our separate ways. Even the wrestling school, he has the wrestling school in Connecticut. I've got the one in Winter Park. So, we both individually own our schools and we just do things separate now. That's all. So it's an interesting one. I'd like to hope that there isn't any bad blood there. He does say.
Did you see? Did you see
Oh.
the response from Bubba Ray's missus?
I did not. Tell me more.
So I'll try and find the exact tweet while we talk. If you could just vamp for a minute, Cal.
Okay. Well, I suppose for anyone listening or watching this, they are scheduled to appear next year in Liverpool at For the Love of Wrestling 2, to which myself and Anthony are going to be attending, and we have the tickets to obviously meet the Dudley Boys as a tag team. So one of the reasons I'm hopeful that there's no animosity there is, I'd like to think that they were still close, and obviously, Team A2theK meeting Team 3D would obviously be a nice moment in time.
The meeting everybody wants, isn't it? Yeah. So Velvet Sky is currently with Bubba Ray, as it turns out, and she has responded in a way, somewhat cryptically, to Devon's sort of comments, and she's put, "Fiction can be fun, lol. If y'all only knew the truth, because this ain't it." So it seems to heavily suggest, and that was in response to the article being posted on Twitter, so she's very specifically referring to that. So she seems to heavily suggest that when he's saying, "Oh, there's no hard feelings, etc., that there might be more to it than that, because she's not give a lot away, but she reckons it's a work of fiction." So that's a bit sad.
Well, I'll be damned. Yeah.
Dropping the bombshell on you there, Carl. Get it, because it's Devon.
I like that. I like that. What's that going to mean then for us, Anthony? We want to obviously meet these two tag team legends, being a pair of podcast tag team legends ourselves, and it'd be nice to feel like we're on good terms together. It'd be awkward if we're just in there and they're seething and we're like, "Oh yeah,
you all right?
Yeah, right." So
I'm sure they know how to be business professional, but it just seems like the relationship might be a bit more soured than maybe Devon is suggesting, which is a shame. It is a true shame.
Well, if there is animosity there, they've been through one hell of a career together. Hopefully, they manage to patch stuff up before we.
I'm sure they will. Like, at the end of the day, it's a long career they've had together. Like you say, there's you can imagine at some point they're going to bury the hatchet if the hatchet is not buried currently.
True that.
So, Carl, let's talk about Punk.
The music, or
yes, what do you think of it?
Yeah, big fan.
Good. So now we've dealt with that. CM Punk was recently on an interview with The Rap, and he was talking about being back in the ring, obviously. And he said, basically, and I don't think it's surprising, but it's interesting, like the honesty, I suppose, that they asked him about how he feels about being back in the ring after 7 years of absence, etc. And he said, "Oh, I feel like trash, I'll be honest." He made it very clear he's 42 years old and he hasn't taken bumps in 7+ years. And he thinks that there's something to building up a callus. Something you do on a regular basis becomes easier when you do it on a regular basis. And he said, obviously he's had that absence and he's feeling it. He said he thinks a lot of wrestlers are actually feeling that right now with the pandemic and all the house shows being shut down. People were wrestling less, even though they're still on TV, etc. And obviously it does have that effect. So yeah, apparently it feels worse somehow, even though he's actually having to wrestle less.
It's a mad.
Understandably, it's been a long time out on it.
That is a mad way to look at things, though, isn't it? It's like, this wrestling thing hurts, but if it happens to me every single day, I can manage it. If it happens a lot less frequently, it hurts more. It's like, what? How is that? You build up a callus to just getting the shit beat out of you on a daily basis? Madness.
Essentially, yeah. His back was just one big callus, apparently, and taking bumps. But no, he did go on to sort of say that the way things are now post-pandemic is actually a lot better. He referred to the wrestlers no longer being treated like cattle. And he said that, things are 100% better now, that they don't, as an example, he said, I haven't got to drive to a town and try and check into a hotel at 4:30 in the morning to find out there's a clown convention in town and all the hotels are booked up. Obviously, as a slightly exaggerated example, he said the appealing schedule is one of the reasons he's come back. So there are pluses, but obviously at the minute in the ring, he's feeling it. So I don't think it's surprising, but an interesting interview anyway.
No, definitely. Maybe if you stop to fucking stage diving into the crowd every week, because that probably isn't going to be good for your back, is it, Phil?
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
At least they're catching him.
I kid. Yeah. No, yeah, it's a mad one, that. But yeah, he's definitely not took the foot off the gas, if you will. He's he's come back, and it's almost like he's never missed a beat. So fair play to him for readjusting back to the pro wrestling world. So especially after doing MMA for so many years as well, just to come back and how do you just not accidentally just chin a guy? Sorry, I forgot about pulling the punches. So yeah.
To be fair, I was going to be bitchy then and say, like, to be fair, in MMA, I'm not sure he ever actually hit anyone.
Damn.
Maybe.
Damn. Yeah. That's the end of that news one, I think. There's nothing else much to say on that. Don't think we'll be having CM Punk on the show anytime soon.
I'd like to. He seems like a cool guy.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy. And we didn't actually, and I feel really bad just tacking this piece of news onto, CM Punk's side of things, but something that I completely forgot about, which it just reminded me of then, is the Women of Wrestling promotion has actually signed AJ Lee.
Oh God, that should have been in the headline.
Or April Mendez Brooks. What is she known as now? But yeah, so obviously AJ Lee, as we formerly knew her, CM Punk's real life wife, is now going to be having quite a prominent role as part of the WoW promotion. They also signed Tessa Blanchard as well. So
it'd be one to watch. I mean, it's a bit of a controversial sign in that one, really. Not AJ, the Tessa Blanchard one. So it'd be one to watch. Be interesting to see how this promotion does.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I felt really bad just like tacking that on. I was like, oh, by the way, his wife did some stuff. Didn't mean it to come across like that at all.
By the way.
Yeah, like awesome news for her in her own right. But yeah, just
see what the women are up to.
Nice we didn't put any. Shut up. If anyone's got to say anything about the women, like, oh, you've been the most negative of all. They don't even need another title. Just after. So the next one to talk about, Tony Khan is back at it again. I think this is the last news item. But he was asked about the possibility of signing the one and only former Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda, and his comments were, he's a great wrestler, and I have to be honest, we haven't talked at all. I've known him in his personal life, but in reality, we haven't talked, but you never know. It's an interesting one, because you'd think they would have at least talked, and is it just him kind of throwing us off the scent or what? But
I think it is. The fact that I think this is too far in the other direction. Like, you're a wrestling company and a fairly prominent one, and he is a hell of a wrestler. There's no way there's not at least been a talk, right? I think the fact that he's acting like that, to me, makes you go, okay, you're trying to point us in the other direction.
Yeah. It's a weird one, because obviously if you get asked that when you're on like a bloody podcast or wherever it was he said it, the WFAN's Moose and Maggie show, obviously if you ask somebody that when you're live on a radio show or whatever, then it's very careful how you have to answer a question like that without trying to give it away. So, if he would have said like, oh, he's a great wrestler, I'm sure he'll end up somewhere, whatever, then, people will be like, oh no, he's definitely not going there. But the fact he's just said, oh, we haven't spoken about it, I don't know, does that, to your point, make you think he's gone too far the other way?
Well, I do think that, I mean, some level I'm like, well, why didn't he, like, it seems like a perfect thing to use for a hype as well, to go, oh, who knows, maybe, to get people watching to see if he rocks up, but he hasn't even tried that sort of tactic, so I don't know. But for me, like, it just doesn't make sense that you wouldn't at least have a conversation with the man and see what he's thinking, what money he's looking at, because he was a draw. He was a massive fucking draw. Yeah. So why would you not, like, to be like, oh, no, we've never spoken, nah. Bray, who? It's just a bit odd, isn't it?
Especially when, like, we found out that him and CM Punk had been chatting for 2 years before he made his, decision to sign with the company. Like, you imagine Tony got in there quite quick, so, yeah. Interesting. So yeah, Indeed. That was all the news, rumours, and
the news
shiznit for this week. We are going to be back for our unique segment this week, where we're going to be comparing the rosters of WWE and AEW in quite a controversial fashion. I'm sure we'll piss a lot of people off. I'm sure you know, a lot of people will be like, no, this one's, you know, an A-tier
just
star.
Watching and liking both shows pisses enough people off, so whatever.
Well, yeah, this is true. But yeah, we're going to try and, you know, have an unbiased view on what the current WWE and AEW rosters are like, and how they compare today. So yeah, make sure you join us for that. But until then, we will bid you a farewell, and we will hand you over to our friend Griff Garrison to sign off. Take it easy.
Go ahead, Griff.
This is Griff Garrison, and you're listening to A to the K.
A to the K. A to the K.
A to the K.